Hey, John.
What's going on, man?
How's it going?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Pretty good. By the way, we're not broadcasting live just yet. I literally just realized that you said 1 p.m. and for some reason, I don't know. I know you live in Tennessee, but for some reason I thought you were on Central Time. So I'm sorry if I messed the time up.
No, I am on Central Time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm the only county in Tennessee that's on Central Time.
Oh, so it worked out. Yeah, I just realized that, and I'm thinking, oh wait, we were supposed to chat an hour ago.
No. This is, absolutely right time. It's so weird because everywhere around me is Eastern Time. Like, if I drive even an hour and a half, the time changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really confusing, and there's a dumb history lesson of why we're that stupid to be Central when everyone else around us is Eastern. But it confuses people all the time because they just assume I'm Eastern.
Yeah, that's kind of like my dad. He lives about an hour from here. He lives in Indiana, and like for a few months out of every year, they go back an hour.
Right.
And I don't understand it because we're kind of in the same area, and it's
Yeah.
whatever. But basically, what I'll be doing is I'll click the broadcast button here in a minute, and we'll wait a minute or two for people to join in and watch the show.
Cool.
And then we will get started. And also something weird with the Hangouts on Air is that once you click Stop Broadcast, it completely closes the Hangout. So so once we're done talking, and once we're done with the interview and whatnot, I'll click Stop Broadcast, and it will close the Hangout and close that out. But then we can start up a new one and chat about the interview afterwards. Or,
cool.
Whatever.
Cool. Sounds good to me, man.
Cool. Well, let me go ahead and click Broadcast. All right, it's live. So wait about a minute or so for people to join in. Hey, everybody watching. Hope your pre-Friday is going over well. I am here with John, and we're going to interview him in just a minute. We're going to wait for more people to come in here. I say for now, I could probably shoot out the link, let people know about the show. Well, yeah. I'm glad that you are on Central Time.
Yeah. That worked out perfectly in my weird time zones.
Do you have the actual show playing right now? Because I could hear it in the background.
I don't. Let me do maybe.
Yeah, your audio is very distorted.
How's that?
Yeah, for some reason your audio coming through is very distorted, and robotic. I don't know what the deal is. Now I can't hear anything. Yeah, nothing. Nothing. Yeah, if you want, yeah, go ahead and hop back in. So yeah, guys, sorry we're having some technical difficulty here, but we'll get started in just a minute. Oh, the joy of new technology. Stuff happens. uh, oh, it might help if I probably have to invite him back in. I think that's how this works. So yeah, guys, sorry about the sorry about the technical difficulties. John should be back in here in just a minute, and hopefully the audio is working okay then. Yeah, for some reason, before we started the broadcast, his audio was just fine, and then once we started the broadcast, it came through all distorted and robotic. Not sure what that's about.
I'm back.
Okay, yeah, you sound good now. I don't know what that was. That was weird.
Hold on just a second. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine now.
Jesus, I can't hear you at all. This is why Google Plus sucks.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're having some issues with the Hangout on Air. Can you hear me now?
Jesus, yes I can.
That's the joy of this new technology. I mean, this stuff's still in beta, so I guess this stuff is supposed to happen.
Well, and dude, my Mac is just really weird anyways. Like, I have to have different settings for Skype compared to the Hangout, and then just like the overall settings. Like, it's always confusing. And so I'd done a Spreecast recently. I don't know if you've
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen Gary Vaynerchuk use that several times.
Yeah, so we did one last week, and my settings have been kind of crazy ever since. But I hear you now, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I will get started. So I'm going to count down, and we will get started. So 3, 2, 1. Hey, Mike here from MikeStinger.com, and today I am interviewing the awesome dude, John Morgan here, who's a branding expert, and I actually have this written down so I don't butcher his bio. But John has consulted with Fortune 500 companies, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and startups, started 3 successful businesses both online and offline, and is also the author of the really good book, Brand Against the Machine. So yeah, John, it's great to have you on here today.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So one of the first things I want to do is tell us about your story and really how you got started.
It's a good question. Because it's not the super exciting story that a lot of people have. But I'll summarize it as quickly as possible. In high school, I started reading marketing books, and which makes no sense, but for some reason it was interesting to me. And we had these big annual magazine sale contest, and it was this big deal. My brother, who's older than me, he had been the top seller like every year that he was at school, and so now I came in, and there was this expectation that I sell magazines well and all of this, and I wasn't even going to do it until I found out that you got to get out of class. So like every day that you were a top seller, you got to go home. And I was like, all right, that's enough motivation for me. So I started selling magazines, ended up my last year of high school, sold over 32,000 magazine subscriptions, which is, insane. And, so but that was like my taste of kind of being an entrepreneur, but I wasn't like, thinking about it at the time. I was, playing in a rock band, and that was the focus, and, I wasn't really driven to do much of anything. So I went to give college a try. That lasted extremely, extremely short. In fact, my first college class, the teacher was like, "This isn't high school. I'm not here to babysit you. If you want to leave, go." And I have no idea what he said next because I was gone. I was like, that's all the permission I need. I'm out the door. So I realized really quickly that college wasn't for me. I just wanted to get out there and actually do something, create something and go ahead and get life kind of going. So I got married to my longtime high school girlfriend, and then I started becoming a real estate agent. And there was no real interest in real estate. It was just everyone said that I needed, a professional sort of career, and I thought, all right, I'm wearing a tie, so that's that's professional. And that's when I actually learned a lot about applying the stuff I've been reading, because really quickly no one was, calling me to do business with me because no one knew who I was. So I had to focus on building that brand. I was so young that, I didn't even have the network of people to get referrals or, anything like that. I mean, I was, so brand new, so inexperienced, so young, like, I had to fight for every single client I got. So I had to get good at marketing. And long story short, a couple years later, we were one of the top brands in the state of Tennessee and one of the top real estate teams. I sold that business to do what I loved, which was consulting with other businesses and, helping people build their brand. So I had been doing that actually the whole time I was doing real estate, but I just got to a point where I realized that as successful as the real estate business was, it was a distraction, and I wanted to go ahead and do what I loved doing. And so that's what I've been doing, speaking and coaching and helping people, and that's it.
Yeah, and the book, Brand Against the Machine, that just came out not too long ago, right?
Yeah, it came out at the end of November of 2011.
And that's available like Amazon and all the popular bookstores, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever fine books are sold.
Oh, okay, cool. And yeah, it's interesting that you talk about reading marketing books and all that stuff in high school, because when I first realized, that I could do stuff on my own, without having to have a job, was in ninth grade. I played football in ninth grade, and we did this fundraiser where we would go out and sell these coupon books for like $20 a pop, and we would have to go door to door, and I was one of the people that sold the most. And I noticed early that it really helps to have be very specific and concise when you're pitching these people and all that stuff. And I ended up winning like $100 prize, so it was pretty cool. And yeah, I would also read books and things of that nature in high school. And one of the next things I want to get into is say someone knows little about branding. They really know pretty much the basics. Where do they start, and what do they do?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think people sometimes are misled about what a brand is and then what branding is. And a lot of times they even think that branding and marketing are the same thing, and they're not. Marketing is a tactic. It's a campaign. They come and go. A brand is, a long-term strategy. It's a commitment to something that you're doing, for a long, long time. But the first place for people to start is to realize they already have a brand, because it's perceptions, right? And everybody that's ever met you has an opinion and a perception of you. So the first thing you have to do is decide, wait a minute, have I built my brand the right way? Like, what do people actually, think of me, with this? Because again, from the time we're born, we have a brand. Everyone, again, has this, opinion or perception of us. So you have to take responsibility of that and make sure it's the right one. And if it's not, correct it, and you can, so that you don't have to sweat about it. But if it is, great, you're on the right path. But that's step one, is just realizing, wait a minute, I've already got this brand. And then step two is just realizing everything you do is branding. So what you say online, what you say offline, how you dress, whether you fulfill your promises, every little thing is branding. So if you've got the brick and mortar business, when someone walks into your store, how friendly that first employee is, that's your brand. That has that perception. I remember, I think I even told this story in the book. I was at a doctor's office once, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I'm the only one in there, and the ladies working the front desk are just complaining about other, clients, and patients that are there. They're complaining about their coworkers, like all this stuff where I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like the moment I leave, I'm getting talked about. And it's like, that affected my opinion of that business and that doctor before I ever even met him. So we have to take responsibility for those things.
And I think, too, when it comes to branding, a lot of people think of a brand as like an image, like a logo or a website, but it's not. It's you as a person and as a business, and not just, like this image.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the big mistakes.
You're exactly right. I mean, because people change their logos, and it doesn't hurt them. And that's the thing. And I realized that actually in real estate. I was with Century 21 when I first started, and then I went to Remax for a few years, and then ultimately to Keller Williams Realty. And every single time I switched, the other agents in the business told me I was crazy. They're like, you're going to lose business, you're going to lose your, recognition, all this stuff, right? I never lost a single client because they weren't calling me because of, what color my business card is or what color the sign in their yard is.
They were calling for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're hiring me. They're hiring my team and what we can, do for them. And so that's exactly right. And I'm glad you brought it up because I know a lot of people talk about Apple being such a great brand because of the design of their products. I love the design of their products, but people also got to remember they didn't always look like this. Yeah. When Apple started out, the computers didn't look that cool, So they've come a long way. Again, it's all about adapting and those things. So you're exactly right. It's not the logo. It's not, again, it's not a marketing campaign. It's not a slogan or a tagline. It's you. It's what you do.
Good stuff. And as a business owner, what does it really take to have a successful brand?
It's a good question. There's a few things. I think the first thing is to understand exactly what you want your brand to stand for, because a lot of brands and companies don't stand for anything, right? They don't represent anything. I mean, I know Zappos is like, the way overused, cliched example, but, when people think of Zappos, they think of service, and that's what they set out to do. That's what they wanted their brand to stand for. So that's the thing is you got to figure out, okay, wait a minute, what are we going to stand for? What is it we're going to do differently? You have to have a reason to exist in the marketplace. You can't just say, oh, this company over here is selling widgets, we are too. Like, okay, why do you exist? Why is yours better? Why is yours different? You have to define that stuff because that's what's going to not only make your brand stand out, but more importantly, long term, make your brand last. Actually, I just had a conversation with someone yesterday about Facebook and all the changes they made. And the guy was like, why can't people just leave Facebook alone? Why won't they just stop messing with it and just leave it as it is? And it's like, because they want to be here 10 years from now. If you and I are doing this interview in 1998, we're talking about AOL and Yahoo. We're not talking about, Facebook, right? So that's the thing. Facebook wants to make sure that, in 2022, we're still talking about Facebook. And to do that, they have to know what their brand's about and think long term. And so few companies do that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about Facebook like that because, I mean, a lot of people here on Google Plus who are using it, they're like, and they really are enjoying it, they're like, well, why don't people just leave Facebook for Google Plus? Google Plus is better and whatnot, but it's a lot more than that. I mean, also people have their friends and their family on there, and for them to leave that, they leave that stuff behind.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's the thing that Facebook did right, is they got people so connected. My mom's not leaving Facebook because of all the pictures of the grandkids, that she's already got, connected in there. But another thing people sometimes don't realize with that is, my mom, she doesn't use Gmail. She doesn't even go to google.com to search. It's just whatever, is in her toolbar, right? So she's not even aware that Google Plus exists, or will, even if she did, would have the interest to go over. So I think it also comes back to, like, wait a minute, like, where's your target audience? I like Google Plus better than Facebook, but right now, more of my audience is still on Facebook, so I've got to be there. And that's, I still like Twitter better than both, but again, it's like, I got to go wherever my audience is, so, I'm like you, actually, to me, Google Plus platform-wise is the best as far as the features and what it does. Like, they did it right. The question is, were they a couple years too late? And time will tell. But again, I love it, but it really doesn't matter what I love. what about my audience?
Yeah, and that's a good thing too. A lot of people will, have spent all this time on Google Plus, and business owners have spent all this time on Google Plus, and they continue to take away the time they spend on Facebook and Twitter. But I mean, Google Plus really isn't as built up as these other networks for most people. Like for me, most of my audience is on Facebook and Twitter, and I use Google Plus, but I don't neglect the other two because those are still important.
Absolutely, and that's the thing that's amazing to me is because people are like, well, will Google Plus kill Facebook? Will it kill this? It's like nobody's killing Facebook right now except Facebook. Like that's they're their own biggest threat at this point, and so it's not going to go away anytime soon. But I think what's also funny let's talk about the flip side of that. Let's talk about the people who are just so anti Google Plus, right? Just because it's new and everything. So they're immediately like, well, the numbers aren't there, the activity's not there, the engagement's not there. They've got all these complaints that may be valid, but at the same time, it's like, don't assume that, like you and I were just talking, don't assume that Facebook is going to be here 10 years from now. MySpace is crying right now. 5 years ago, they think they're sitting pretty. So the internet is still so new. It's still the Wild West. Things are changing all the time, and so that's why I think as business owners and as entrepreneurs, we have to be flexible. Just like you're talking about. Your audience is on Facebook and Twitter. You're going to be there. You like Google Plus, so sure, be here and build that up and have fun. But at the end of the day, when it comes to business, where your audience is, and that's what matters. If my audience tomorrow packs up and leaves Facebook, I'm gone. I'm done.
Yeah, and I mean it's good to invest this time over on Google Plus, and eventually, at least for myself, I'm sure it will make me money in terms of referrals, clients, and that thing. But that's something that takes time. But that still, again, doesn't mean you should ignore the other big two themselves. So next thing I want to get into is what are some common misconceptions about branding? I'm sure there's quite a few.
Yeah, I think the one that really drives me crazy is, and I say this just because so many of my competitors, will constantly say that you don't define your brand, your audience does. Your customers are the one that determines your brand, and that is so wrong. And the evidence is in front of me. And let me explain what I mean. If you and I go to a networking event, and you say, hey John, what do you do? I don't say, you tell me, Mike. I tell you what I do, right? I define it for you. I lay that out. Steve Jobs did this brilliantly with Apple. He was, adamant about, not really caring what, his audience thought they wanted. He's going to tell them what they want. You need an iPad. You need and want, an iPod. That's the thing, right? He defined it. And so I think that's the first thing is to realize that, those customers in that audience, they're going to determine whether or not you have a good brand or a bad brand, but you got to come back to personal responsibility. To sit there and say that your audience defines your brand, to me is a really lazy excuse of you not having to focus on it. So I think that's that's one step with it. Again, I just get frustrated when people talk about it in these other ways. It's like again, you have to define it. No one's going to hire you to speak at an event or consult with your company or whatever if you don't define exactly what it is that you do.
Right. So are there any other misconceptions that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, the problem we've got today is that for many years branding from a commercial sense was just looked at as TV commercials, radio ads, billboards, just again, blasting your logo in front of someone, 100 million times, so that they remember it and assume that that's going to, equal sales. And, so while awareness is important, the problem is that awareness doesn't equal trust. So you have to build your awareness while you're building these relationships. So, that's why I talk about in the book, that the future of business is going to be marketing with people, not at them. So you got to be visible, but at the same time, again, if you're not, you can buy visibility all day long and not make any money from it. I actually know a guy who got on Oprah, and that was like, the big thing, right? Everyone wants to get on Oprah to talk about their product, and I won't say his name because it's really easy to, Google him and find him, but he got on Oprah and talks about the product and everything. Guess what happens? He makes 2 sales. right? So it's not, there's a lot more to it than just let me go buy awareness and let me go buy, visibility. You've got to, you've got to build those relationships and establish that trust. I think that's, again, a big misconception is people think, okay, we understand branding's about consistency, which it is, but then they stop. And they think, okay, I'll just be consistent with everything. It's like, wait a minute. There's so much more to that. Again, everything we do, is branding, and you have to, again, take responsibility for it.
Very cool. And I think you touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but in Chapter 8 of your book, you talk about the difference between marketing and branding. Could you maybe talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, marketing is, I'm going to, run this email campaign. I'm going to send out this series of emails and promote, something. We're going to, do this social media, campaign. We're going to, maybe we are going to run this, this set of TV commercials, or we're going to do these, Facebook ads or whatever. That's marketing, direct mail, all of these kind of things, right? The brand is what you are. Again, it's that reputation and that relationship, people have with you, that perception. So they're very, very different because you can't sit here and change your brand every 3 months, but you can change your marketing every 3 months. So that's where they're not the same thing. I tell people that, marketing tactics come and go. Your brand is not a campaign, it's a commitment. Because that's, again, that's the truth. And, let's use, again, Steve Jobs and what he did with Apple. Look at how committed he was to the brand. Look at how committed Richard Branson is to the brand. Now, Virgin goes out and does 1,000 different marketing campaigns and different, tactics and, publicity stunts and all of those things, and that's great. But at the end of the day, Richard Branson still knows what his brand is, what it's about, and what it represents. So that's the difference people have to understand is you don't sit here and say, okay, I'm going to brand myself for 4 months and see how it goes. Like that's not, it's not the way it works.
Yeah. Good stuff. And in Chapter 17 of the book, you dive into social media. So what are some best tactics for building one's brand through social media?
I mean, that's a great question, and it's, to me, the how-to on this has been out there for so long. It amazes me that people still get it wrong. But obviously, you want to, not just blast sales messages over and over and over. That makes you a douchebag. No one wants to, follow you and pay attention to you in that sense. So you've got to come back to, okay, I want to actually educate people first. I want to be a resource for them and not just another service provider. So, I want to provide information. I want to be interesting and also put your personality out there. People are on social media to be social. They want to get to know you. I actually had someone last week, Mike, who said, geez, John, you post, pictures of your kids almost every week. What's up with that? Well, here's what's up with it. 88% of my target audience has kids. So they want to know that I have kids and what's going on with them, right?
Well, two people can relate to that. They can relate to kids, and they can definitely relate to like food and also pets.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and you never know what someone's going to relate to, right? So that's why you have to put your personality out there. Gary Vaynerchuk and I became friends talking trash about football. Yeah. Right? Now we've talked about being a dad and those things, but it started by, football, right? If I don't put out there, stuff about football, if he doesn't talk about the Jets, maybe we don't ever build that relationship, right? Maybe we don't ever find, that connection. At the same time, I became friends with Scott Stratton in the early days of Twitter because we were talking about rock music, what bands we liked and what songs and things like that. It's like, you never know, what's going to be that one thing that's going to make somebody be like, okay, I'm like that too, or that's interesting. Let me find out about it. And again, here let me use you as an example, Mike, because you have asked me about my children many times, and you said, how they doing, how's this, that means the world to me, right? If you were to just say, how's business, I'm going to give you the same old, business is great, talk to you later, like the brush off, right? But instead, you're hitting me like where it counts, right? You're hitting me in the heart. And again, that's it's so important, to build real relationships, through social media, and real friendships, are then formed, and that's okay. I know businesses sometimes think, well, we're here to make money, we're not here to make friends. I get that. I'm in business to make money too, but make no mistake about it. The more relationships I've got, the more money I got. There's a direct correlation to that, and I know I know you see that in the companies and stuff that you work with. So that's the thing about social media. It's just like, okay, wait a minute, like you've got to engage. And I know everyone's heard that, but it's like, wait, stop and actually look. Like, here's the thing that anybody can do. Go to tweetstats.com. It's free. Throw in your Twitter username, and it'll come up and tell you the top 10 people you engage with the most on Twitter, right? This is eye-opening, because if those 10 people aren't clients, prospective clients, or maybe people who could potentially promote you, you're doing it wrong. You know, if that 10 people is the same people you also hang out with on a Friday night, you know, you don't need to be talking to them on Twitter. You're going to talk to them anyways, right? You know, my brother's on Twitter, and, you know, I've probably tweeted him, you know, 3 times ever, because I can talk to my brother anytime. You know, I can send text messages. I can call him. You know, I can run to his house, you know, whatever, right? I don't need to spend my time there talking to the same old people. I'm doing this for business. So again, it's a quick way to do it. Just go to TweetStats, see who you're actually engaging with, and see, okay, wait a minute, am I doing this right? Am I focused with my social media? Because I think you've probably seen this, you know, more than anybody. People get on it, they use it for a couple months, and then say, well, that was a waste of time. But they had no, you know, they had no focus or strategy.
Well, and two, social media is long-term. Some people look at it as a get-rich-quick scheme, but it doesn't work that way. And when you were talking about, you know, building relationships and engaging with people, and you know, asking questions, you know, personal questions such as, you know, how are your kids doing, I think it also helps to actually be genuine about it. You know, there's some people that are asking those kinds of questions because, I mean, hell, it's good for business, but I think it also helps to be genuine and actually sincere and actually care to know.
Right, and you're exactly right. And so, again, like, let me give a little sort of hat tip to you, because you've asked me multiple times. If you'd asked me once, I know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You know, but you're right. You know, so yeah, it is about being, you know, I hate to use the word authentic, but you know, just being real about it, and you know, that's the good thing. And even, you know, if people know, like, hey, you know what, they're just trying to build this business relationship. Okay, fine. You know, if someone wants to build a business relationship with me, and they're doing it in a very cool, you know, real way, why would I be offended by that? Like, okay, you know, maybe they are somebody I need to get to know. You know, so again, you're right. It's about just, you know, doing it for the right things, and that's where, real quick, this is something that just happened to me recently that totally, like, I don't know, just drives me nuts and pisses me off. There's a guy who I'm friends with on Facebook. I'm sure we follow each other on Twitter, and I know him offline. You know, so, you know, I know the guy, right? And in the past maybe 12 or 13 months, he has contacted me twice, both times to present me with a business opportunity, right? And again, it's like, you know, I'm open to new opportunities all the time. It's not that. It's that the only time you communicate with me is when you want something. You're never going to get a yes to that. You know, where were you the 12 months in between? You know, so it's that kind of stuff. You know, so again, let's tie this all, you know, together. We talked about the personality stuff and sharing, you know, some areas of, let's say, your personal life that you're comfortable with. This guy, for example, you know, again, he lives near me, right? Like, he could probably, you know, run to my house. Like, you know, that's how close we are, say, offline. My daughter was born 9 months ago. I don't get a card. I don't get an email. I don't get a tweet. I get nothing from him. Again, that's fine until you're going to contact me 9 months later and, you know, present me with a business opportunity where you're wanting me to help you out. You see what I mean? It's like, you know, again, it's like, you know, where are you when you don't need something? That's the key to me to social media, is being there when you're just there to genuinely talk to people.
Well, and two, I think there has to be some sort of value for you yourself, you know, and because for them, of course, them pitching you a business proposal, of course, they're benefiting potentially from it, and it's valuable to them. But what's the value for you? You know, why would this be worth your time? And that's kind of how building these relationships come into play.
Yeah, and that comes to using social media, again, to know your audience and know those networks you want, those relationships, right? So if I've got someone out there and I'm like, hey, I really wish they would, you know, write a blog post about my book, then here's what I do. I stalk them. I spend months following them on social media, listening. And I'm not listening to the business stuff. I'm listening to what you and I are talking about. You know, what sports teams do they like? What music do they like? Do they have kids? What's important to them? Then I'm going to spend a few months talking to them about those things. Right? You know, Chris Brogan doesn't want you to write him and say, hey, dude, I like your blog. Yeah, you know, okay, you know, so does a million other people, right? Connect with him on a human level, right? So it's those kind of things. Now, all of a sudden, when I go to make that approach, it's real, like you're talking about, and it's also, I'm not just, where did you come from, kind of thing. It's like, oh, I've been there. There's that, again, there's that relationship, there's that friendship there, and again, so few people actually, do this, and that's, again, when I talk about that being purposeful with your social media, if you're not, it is a huge waste of time. That's the thing. You can spend your whole life on Twitter and not get a single, business deal from it or a client or anything, or you can be very, very purposeful about what you do and who you network and engage with, and then you can actually get, a ton of results.
Yeah, and speaking of reaching out to people, I thought it was funny what you did. Going back to personality, I think humor also helps. And I remember I got your book, and I told you about it, and then I didn't read through it entirely, and we kept joking back and forth about, hey, you need to read the book, and I'd say like, oh, I'll just give it a 1-star review, and there's that humor back and forth. So I think that's definitely good.
Yeah. I mean, because it's, again, it's like, it makes you stand out, right? It's those kind of things where it's like, okay, now we're building a real relationship here, and so, again, that's what's great. And then we can do business things like this. We can do these, fun kind of things, because exactly what you're saying, it starts with like, okay, just have some personality to it. Also, gosh, don't take your brand and your business so seriously. So many people do, and it's just, it's a horrible, horrible thing. And, it's like, I know that some people are in a serious business. Maybe if you're a doctor, you're thinking, okay, I got to take this seriously. At the same time, everyone in your waiting room is nervous. If you come out and, you crack a joke with them or you somehow put them at ease, man, they love you. So, again, it's like, don't take business and life so seriously, because everyone wants to do business with a company that's fun, not one that's, super boring and unremarkable.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. And, how do you yourself use social media, and are there any best tips that you have to share right off the top of your head?
Sure. I use it two main ways that I use it. One is to put out good content, and very focused content. So I'm constantly trying to give branding advice, and giving tips, and those kind of things, and sharing that with people. I want to educate them first, because I know that if they're like, oh, you know what, I like this guy's blog, maybe I'll like his book. Oh, I liked his book, maybe I'll like to work with him. If they like the free stuff, they're going to love the stuff they pay for, right? So that's the first way, say, I use social media, is to just, put out good quality content out there, be a resource for people. And then the second way is exactly what I was just talking about. I made a list of, like, gosh, probably 100 people who I wanted to promote my business, basically, right? Be joint venture partners, whatever you want to call it. I wanted them to promote my stuff, right? And I did exactly what I was talking about. I spent months just listening. Then I spent months just engaging with them, getting to know them, before we ever took it to, hey, could you do this for me? I was building those real relationships. And again, that's it's what it's about. So here, let me give you a quick story about it. I started Twitter, I think, in sometime like mid-2008. And this was before the celebrities came in and, like, ruined it. And back when Twitter was, like, far, far different.
Ooh, Justin Bieber!
right, yeah. But before Ashton came in and, made it a big deal. And so I remember, I was building some relationships with people. And, again, Scott Stratton, the unmarketing guy, for people who don't actually know his name, he and I built this relationship. And so we talked on Twitter a lot, but then I interviewed him for a project I was doing. I think he had interviewed me for a project he was doing. So the relationship continues to form, right? Then there's like some email, exchanges, and now we're taking it from social media, and we're moving more and more to just like private communications, right? Getting to know each other, better and better through this time. So then, I guess a year ago, maybe it was, or a year and a half ago, when his book came out, and he goes to do the book tour, I told him, I was like, look, if you want to come to Nashville to do, a book stop, I'll help you out with it, promote it, whatever, like, just let me know. So Scott ends up coming and staying at my house, right? Sleeping in the guest bedroom, staying there. So, we had never met face to face when he came in. Yet we had known each other for a long time. We had talked on the phone. Like, again, that relationship, say, took some time, right? But now all of a sudden, he's getting a business benefit from it because I helped put on an event here in Nashville, right? So, we had a good time and everything. His event was, a very awesome, very cool thing. And then, again, now let's, fast forward to, last November, my book comes out. Scott's one of the first people waiting in line to promote my book. There was no question about it, right? He's been a big, big supporter of it, and and continues to recommend it. It all started with just real friendship. Neither one of us had an agenda. We were just like, hey, you like rock music, I like rock music. We argued over, who was the greatest band of the '90s, and all of this stuff. Stuff that seems like, well, this doesn't matter. This is a waste of time. It's like, really? Because now I'm looking at it in 2012. I helped support his book. He's helped support my book, and we also have a real friendship here. That's a good business relationship.
Yeah, that's how some of the greatest business opportunities happen, is just through nonchalant, just natural conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I guess my point that I really want to stress to people is look at the time that took. From middle of 2008 to now, we're here early 2012. It's not a 6-month thing, it's not a 3-month thing, right? You have to be patient, like you were just talking about a moment ago with social media. You have to commit to it, and okay, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to do this. The same thing when my book came out. They did a book event here in Nashville for it, and a friend of mine who I met through social media was like, hey, my company wants to sponsor it. We'll buy the books for everybody. We want to kind of host it. And I was like, great. Didn't even have to go and ask anybody. They came to me and said, hey, we want to do this. Again, this is a real relationship, right? It wasn't something just a cold call or built overnight. And I think that's the thing. And it's honestly, like, it's not even just social media. It's like your email list. Don't just hammer them with sales messages all the time. Help them out. Give them free stuff. Give them good stuff. Build a relationship. I've got a client right now who hired me maybe, 4 or 5 months ago. And the first time I was talking to her on the phone, she told me, she said, I've been on your email list for 4 years. And I was like, what took you so long? Like, Jesus, like, surely, like, I was promoting better than that, right?
Yeah.
But, again, it's like, it's that patience. And nobody wants to have patience in business anymore. They want that instant result and that quick buck. And it's like, you know what? I want to make money today. I also want to make money 25 years from now. Yeah. So I want to build a business that will last. And to do that, you've got to build real relationships and build that strong audience.
Yeah, and coming back to social media, I posted something earlier today that social media is a 2-lane expressway and not a one-way street, because a lot of businesses will just push a message out there and they just push over and over again, and there's no pull, there's no conversation. In fact, I saw a post earlier today that 90% of brands on Facebook just push content out and aren't even interacting with their customers and with their fans.
Yeah, it's insane to me, and it's amazing because the ones that, and you're right, it's so few and far between, especially with the big brands who get it and they don't just push. The results they get are phenomenal, and Oreo is a great example of this, because it's like, why the hell does Oreo need a fan page? What are they even going to talk about? Yet you go to their fan page and you look at the engagement, and you look at like what they do, and it's like, wow, they really, really get it. There's good stuff, with that, and I guess that's the thing, is it's like, wow, like, sadly, there's not that many examples to point at of, oh, here's a great way to do it. That's where the opportunity lies, though. So if you're listening to this, this is this is it. This is the opportunity, right? Wow, if you're the guy who engages, if you write back, if you're actually human with people, you now win.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of sad that just interacting, you already have an advantage over other people. I mean, for me, I think it should come naturally that you're interacting and engaging with your audience, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, well, I wrote a chapter in the book about, caring and showing people that you care about them. And I was literally disgusted that I had to write the chapter. It's like, caring should be a given. That should not be a business strategy, right? This is what the world we live in, that if you just care about someone and show them you care, how much that means to people. It's, again, it's the bar is so low that, that's sad. But the good news is, because the bar is low, the opportunity is there. So if you're willing to have that high standard, you're going to stand out and you're going to get massive results, massive, word of mouth and referrals and, all of those things because of that. And I think you know this because I'm sure you probably see this daily. This is what people are begging for. You know, I mean, like I've seen people, you know, tweet at someone and they're just so hoping that person writes them back. You know, they just want, you know, that little bit of validation, you know, that little bit of attention. It means the world to somebody. You know, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I remember one time, you know, tweeting back to a guy, I just wrote the word thanks. And next thing I know, here comes a direct message. And he was like, you know, no one ever writes me back who's like, you know, a, you know, big person or, you know, whatever. And it's like, really? Like, you know, I just said one word to you. But it means the world to some people.
Yeah. And to finish things up, lastly, if you could share one piece of advice, what would it be?
Mm. Everybody in business focuses on their product and service. They want to make the best product and service that they can, which is good because, yes, you do. But they assume that if they have the best product or service, they're going to be a millionaire. The problem with that is it's like, you know, the field of dreams approach. Just because you build it doesn't mean they're coming, right? So no one knows you exist, and no one knows your product exists. So first and foremost, you have to focus on your visibility. You've got to build a brand that people know is there and, you know, again, engage and, you know, build trust and relationships with, but that comes before ability. So I actually, you know, in the book I talk about, you know, visibility is more important than ability. You know, that's it. And, you know, marketing people, by the way, they don't want to teach you that because they're selling courses about increasing your ability, right? You know, so that becomes, you know, why they want to teach you. Now, I'm not saying that your product and service can suck. So your ability still has to be phenomenal because once you get in the door through the visibility, your ability is going to keep you there. So again, if you're bad, now they're out and now they're mad. You know, so you got attention and then screwed it up. But again, you can't just sit there and be like, wow, we've just built the greatest product ever, and then just assume that everyone's going to know about it and, you know, buy it and talk about it, you know, and those things. And it drives me nuts because everyone comes up to me and says, you know what, we're building this great product and it's going to blow the world away. And my first, you know, response is, you know, no, it's not. You know, like, you know, who's going to know about it besides your mom? Who knows you've got this product? And that's the thing is that you've got to focus on, okay, how do I get myself out there and build that up?
Very cool. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. A really awesome conversation. I think you shared some really good stuff with everybody. So how can people learn more about you and check you out?
Sure. Well, they can go to my blog, which is johnmichaelmorgan.com, and of course from there they can find me on Twitter and Facebook and all those good things.
And you can check out his book, Brand Against the Machine. Just do a Google search.
That's right.
All right, cool.
It's one of the top-rated marketing books on Amazon.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really cool. Good.
Yeah. We hit #1 the other day, and the book's only been out like 3 months.
Nice.
So yeah, very exciting.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, John, thanks for stopping by. It was great having you on.
Thanks for having me.